viewers, this is me Dr. Sanyogita, Assistant Professor, Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla. Today I am going to discuss the topic lack of gender diversity in judiciary. First, the introduction of the topic. The India Justice Report 2022 highlighted a glaring lack of inclusion across various sectors, including the judiciary, stating that progress remains frustratingly slow in addressing caste and gender diversity. Since independence, India has grappled with gender biases and prejudices that pervade nearly every sphere, including its judicial system. To delve into the concept of diversity within the judiciary, it is essential to first understand the broader context of gender diversity in India. Gender-based discrimination in country stems from deeply ingrained stereotypes, patriarchal cultural norms, stigmatization of women and widespread gender-based violence. These factors collectively hinder women's ability to access justice on an equal footing with men. Gender diversity in India reflects a complex interplay of progressive advancements and persistent challenges rooted in social, cultural and economic dynamics. Historically, gender roles in India have been shaped by religious traditions and societal norms, often confining women to domestic spaces. Yet in recent decades, there has been a significant shift. Today, women are increasingly breaking through these traditional confines, pursuing education, entering the workforce in greater numbers, actively participating in politics, and taking on leadership roles. Many women are also driving change as entrepreneurs, contributing to various industries and challenging long-standing barriers. This transformation signifies a gradual but impactful redefinition of gender roles in contemporary India. Efforts to address gender disparities in India are ongoing, with both government programs and advocacy campaigns prioritizing education, safety and empowerment of women. Various government initiatives, along with active involvement of non-governmental organizations, are working to promote gender equality and build a more inclusive society. However, achieving true gender balance requires sustained commitment, innovative policies, and significant cultural shifts to ensure equal opportunities and rights for all genders. The Global Gender Gap Report 2024, published by the World Economic Forum, points a stark picture of gender inequality. It evaluates progress across 4 key dimensions: economic participation, educational attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. According to the report, it will take an estimated 134 years, stretching to the year 2158, to achieve full gender parity. This timeline surpasses the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal target by 5 generations. Globally, the gender gap score stands at 68.5% for 2024, reflecting only a marginal improvement of 0.1 percentage points from the previous year. India's workforce continues to be dominated by men, highlighting a critical imbalance in gender participation. As a nation aiming to capitalize on its demographic advantage with the world's largest working age population expected to reach nearly 70% by 2030. India can no longer overlook the importance of increasing women's participation in the workforce. With the potential to become a major driver of global economic growth, India faces a pivotal moment. A recent report underscores the significance of the next 5 years in achieving a sustained GDP growth rate of 8%. To realize this vision, women must play a central role, making up more than half of the new workforce that will emerge by 2030. Empowering women to enter and thrive in the workforce is not just a matter of equity. It is essential for unlocking the nation's full economic potential. The State of Working India Report 2023 highlights notable shifts in employment trends, reflecting a gradual narrowing of gender disparities in India's workforce. Key findings from the report reveal older women with lower educational qualifications are exiting the workforce, while younger, more educated women are stepping in. There is a rise in number of women taking up salaried jobs, accompanied by a decline in informal wage work. Fewer women are now engaged in agriculture, with more transitioning to roles in the services sector. These changes have a ripple effect on gender pay gap. As more women move from casual, low-paying jobs to stable salaried positions, the disparity in earning between men and women decreases. These evolving patterns signal a significant and lasting transformation in women's economic participation, paving the way for a more equitable future in workforce. India continues to face significant challenges in achieving gender parity. The Global Gender Gap Report 2024, published by the World Economic Forum, ranks India at 129th out of 146 countries, a drop of 2 places from the previous year and well below the global average. Gender inequality remains one of India's most pressing social and economic challenges, as repeatedly highlighted by internal assessments. The Gender Inequality Index 2022, featured in the latest Human Development Report released by the UNDP on March 13, 2024, paints a more optimistic picture. India has climbed to 108th place out of 193 countries, a notable improvement of 14 ranks compared to the previous year. Over the past decade, India has made steady progress on the GII, moving from a rank of 127 in 2014 to its current position. This upward trajectory reflects the impact of targeted government efforts to empower women, a range of policy initiatives has been introduced focusing on education for girls, skill development, entrepreneurship, support, and workplace safety. These measures addressing women's needs across different stages of life demonstrate a commitment to fostering long-term socio-economic and political empowerment for women in the country. Policies and legislations in these areas have been driving the government's women-led development agenda. India cannot achieve true social and economic development if half its population remains economically disempowered. Currently, women contribute only 18% to the country's GDP. Closing the gender gap in the employment has the potential to boost GDP by 30%. However, achieving this requires transformative changes in education, healthcare, societal attitudes, and economic policies. Now, gender diversity in judiciary. Women represent half of the world's population, and this should be reflected in all professions critical to societal progress, including the judiciary. Their equal participation in judicial roles is not just desirable but essential for dismantling systematic gender-based discrimination and fostering inclusive justice. Historically, the legal profession was considered unsuitable for women. Over time, this perception has evolved, and many women now pursue law as a career of choice. Despite this progress, their representation in the judiciary, particularly in higher courts, remains inadequate. This disparity must change. Judges play a pivotal role in shaping societal norms through their decisions, which can influence social structures, challenge inequalities, and uphold justice. A judiciary with greater gender diversity enhances fairness, equity, and trust in legal system. Moreover, gender diversity in the judiciary is not just about representation. It directly impacts public confidence in the judicial process. It ensures that decision making reflects diverse perspectives, empowering the judiciary to address the needs of the most vulnerable section of the society effectively. This shift towards inclusivity is critical for building a more equitable system that serves everyone. Despite decades of feminist advocacy and significant strides made by women in various fields, Indian courts continue to lag in addressing the seriousness of crimes and injustices against women. In her book, Recovering Subversion, Feminist Politics Beyond the Law, Nivedita Menon argues that patriarchal biases in legal interpretation perpetuate systemic discrimination against women. While laws may proclaim equality, Their implementation often disregards the social, economic and cultural disadvantages that women face compared to men. Menon stresses the need for judges to recognize the asymmetry of positions between genders when ruling on cases involving women. Nandita Haksar, in her essay Dominance, Suppression and the Law, takes this argument further, asserting that legal reforms alone are insufficient without a deeper socio-political and cultural understanding of gender injustice. The law often fails to address the lived experiences of women who endure oppression and abuse. Gender inequality in the judiciary, a global perspective. Gender disparity in judiciary is not just an Indian issue. It is a global challenge that hinders women's access to justice and their representation in judicial leadership roles. For instance, as of December 2021, women comprised 61.1% of the Supreme Court in the Bahamas. Similarly, Kenya made a historic advancement by appointing its first female Chief Justice in 2021. Despite these breakthroughs, women remain underrepresented in senior judicial positions worldwide. With women from minority backgrounds facing even steeper challenges, some countries in the Commonwealth have introduced diversity quotas to improve gender representation. While these measures have helped increase the number of women in the judiciary, they have yet to achieve full parity. This global imbalance underscores the urgent need for systemic reforms. Efforts must go beyond token representation and focus on creating an inclusive legal framework that ensures equal opportunities and removes barriers for women in all judicial roles. The increasing representation of women in the legal field has opened more opportunities for them to practice law and serve in judicial positions. In Rwanda, women constitute nearly half of the judiciary. Similarly, progress has been seen at the highest levels of the judiciary in other countries. By December 2021, women made up 61.1% of the Supreme Court in Bahamas, and Kenya appointed its first female Chief Justice in the same year. Despite these advancements, the global underrepresentation of women in judiciary remains a challenge. Why women's participation in judiciary matters? Because greater representation of women in judiciary is critical for challenging gender stereotypes, strengthening the response to gender-based violence and inequality, making justice more accessible to women and marginalized communities, enhancing public trust in judicial system. The situation in Indian courts, India has seen some progress in increasing women's representation in judiciary, though the pace has been slow. In 2018, women accounted for just 10% of the 696 judges in high courts by 2023. This figure rose to 13.4% of the 737 judges. Subordinate courts have shown more significant improvement. Women constituted 27.6% of the judges in subordinate courts in 2018, a number that grew to 36.3% by 2023. However, the Supreme Court remains notably behind, with only 9.4% of its judges being women in 2023. While these trends indicate progress, much remains to be done to achieve true gender parity in India's judiciary. Expanding women's representation across all levels of judicial system is essential for fostering inclusivity, addressing systemic inequalities, and ensuring equitable justice. Advocating for a diverse judiciary, a pressing need promoting diversity in the judiciary has never been more crucial, especially given its expanding role in governance and policy making. While the legislature, as the primary law-making body, has often struggled to fulfill the Constitution's vision of controlled revolution, the judiciary has stepped up, taking on responsibilities that extend beyond more adjudication. This evolution underscores the urgent need for a judiciary that reflects the diversity of society it serves. Challenges faced by women in legal profession. At the 11th convocation of the National Law University, Justice Nagaratna voiced her concern over the persistent underrepresentation of women in the legal field. She highlighted how many women are forced to leave the profession at the height of their careers due to the overwhelming personal and professional demands placed upon them. These statistics, she emphasized, are more than just numbers. They symbolize missed opportunities, silenced voices, and absence of diverse perspectives in shaping the legal system. Gender diversity in Indian courts. Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud has candidly acknowledged that Indian judiciary remains largely male-dominated. Women continue to be significantly underrepresented both as judges and chief justices across the Supreme Court and the High Courts. The Supreme Court Collegium, which plays a critical role in judicial appointments, also suffers from a stark gender imbalance. Out of 788 judges serving in all high courts as of June 2023, only 107, which are approximately 13%, are women. Moreover, none of India's 25 high courts currently have a women chief justice. This glaring lack of representation highlights the urgent need for systemic reforms to ensure that the judiciary becomes more inclusive, fostering a legal system that truly represents all sections of society. Now, the importance of women in the judiciary. Women's participation in the judiciary is vital as it brings multiple benefits to the justice system, including breaking down entrenched gender stereotypes, strengthening responses to violence and discrimination against women, expanding access to justice for women and marginalized communities, boosting public trust and confidence in the judiciary, representation gaps in higher judiciary. The high courts serve as primary source for Supreme Court appointments. A lack of representation at the high court level inevitably affects the gender diversity in the Supreme Court. The only other pathway for Supreme Court judges is through direct elevation from the bar. However, to date, Justice Indu Malhotra remains only women to have been directly appointed to the Supreme Court from the bar. As of June 2023, the Supreme Court has 31 judges out of sanctioned strength of 34, but only 3 are women. Despite women's growing involvement in public life, their presence in the decision-making roles remains minimal, particularly in senior judicial leadership positions. Why women's representation in judiciary matters? Women's representation in the judiciary is crucial for fostering courts that truly reflect the society they serve. A diverse judiciary can better address the concerns of all citizens and deliver judgments that are both fair and inclusive. The presence of women judges sends a strong message that courts are accessible, equitable, and willing to hear the voices of everyone seeking justice. The inclusion of women in judicial roles historically dominated by men has positively shifted perceptions of the judiciary. These changes contribute to the courts being seen as more transparent, inclusive, and representative of the communities they serve. Women judges not only enrich the judiciary with diverse perspectives, but also pave the way for a justice system that resonates with fairness and equity for all. At the end, we will say that while there has been notable progress in women's representation within the judiciary, gender parity is still far from being achieved. The legal field has traditionally been male-dominated, and women have faced considerable challenges in gaining access and advancing in this profession. However, recent years have seen a positive shift, with more women becoming qualified lawyers and securing judicial appointments. For example, in Rwanda, nearly half of the judges are women, and there have been encouraging strides in increasing female representation in senior judicial roles. Despite these advancements, the overall number of women serving as judges still lags behind their male counterparts, and there is still a long way to go for full gender equality in judiciary. Though the inclusion of women on juries and in judicial positions is increasing, the profession continues to be predominantly male, with significant barriers remaining for women to enter and ascend in the judicial hierarchy. That's all for today's lecture. See you in the next lecture with new topic. Till then, thank you. Goodbye.